Lily Mitchell stood silently at the edge of Westbrook Academy's manicured courtyard, her second-hand uniform hanging slightly loose on her slender frame as she watched her classmates arrive in luxury vehicles. She clutched her worn backpack tighter, the scholarship letter safely tucked inside, her only legitimate claim to this prestigious world. What the elite students of Westbrook didn't know was that Lily's farmer father, who dropped her off in a mud-splattered pickup truck, had once turned down a seat on the stock exchange to pursue his passion for sustainable agriculture. And in 3 months, at graduation, the truth about the Mitchell family's vast holdings would shock the entire school, especially those who had made Lily's senior year a living nightmare. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Westbrook Academy stood like a fortress of privilege on the outskirts of Boston, its neo-Gothic architecture and ivy-covered walls housing the children of New England's wealthiest families for over a century. The school's reputation for producing future senators, CEOs, and industry leaders was matched only by its astronomical tuition, a fact that made Lily Mitchell's presence all the more remarkable and, to some, offensive. On this particular September morning, Lily navigated the crowded hallway toward her advanced economics class, her eyes fixed on the scuffed tiles beneath her feet. She had learned that eye contact often invited trouble, especially from Madison Taylor and her entourage, who had made the charity case their pet project since orientation week. "Oh my God, did you actually try to fix your shoes with duct tape?" Madison's voice cut through the hallway chatter, causing several students to turn and stare at Lily's footwear. Indeed, the sole of her right shoe had begun separating that morning, and rather than ask her parents for money she knew they were saving for the farm's new irrigation system, Lily had made a quick repair with silver tape. "I think it's called Farmer Chic," added Aidan Brooks, Madison's boyfriend and the son of a hedge fund manager. "You know, DIY before it was trendy." Lily felt heat rising in her cheeks, but kept walking, clutching her textbooks closer to her chest. She had endured worse in the 6 months since receiving the prestigious Mitchell Agricultural Sustainability Scholarship, an irony not lost on her, given that the anonymous donor shared her surname, but was presumed to have no relation. "Miss Mitchell, a moment, please." The firm voice of Dr. Eleanor Reynolds, Westbrook's headmistress, provided unexpected rescue. The elegant woman in her 50s beckoned from her office doorway, her expression unreadable behind tortoise-shell glasses. Lily followed Dr. Reynolds into the walnut-paneled office, taking a seat across from the imposing desk while Madison and her friends continued down the hall, their laughter fading. "How are you adjusting this semester?" Dr. Reynolds asked, her tone softer than her public persona typically allowed. "Fine, thank you," Lily replied automatically. It was her standard answer to inquiries about her well-being at Westbrook. Simple, conclusive, and entirely false. Dr. Reynolds studied her with practiced insight. "Your academic performance continues to be exemplary. Professor Harrington tells me your analysis of emerging market economies was graduate-level work." "Economics comes naturally to me," Lily said with a small shrug. "My dad taught me about market forces before I learned multiplication tables." A slight smile crossed Dr. Reynolds' face. "Yes, the sustainable farming perspective offers unique insights into supply and demand." She leaned forward, adjusting a pen on her blotter with precision. "The reason I called you in, Miss Mitchell, is to discuss the Senior Showcase." The Senior Showcase was Westbrook's most prestigious event before graduation, a presentation of exceptional projects to alumni, parents, and potential college recruiters. Selection was considered both an honor and a virtual guarantee of admission to an elite university. Your economics professor has nominated your proposal on regenerative agricultural business models. The committee was quite impressed. Dr. Reynolds slid a formal letter across the desk. Congratulations, you'll be presenting alongside 5 other students. Lily's fingers trembled slightly as she accepted the letter. Thank you, she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. This opportunity could mean scholarship offers from universities her family could never afford. A chance to continue her education without depleting the farm's resources. The showcase will require professional attire, Dr. Reynolds continued, her eyes flicking briefly to Lily's tape-repaired shoe. The school maintains a discretionary fund for such expenses if needed. Pride stiffened Lily's spine. That won't be necessary, but thank you. Dr. Reynolds nodded, unsurprised by the response. Very well. Professor Harrington will serve as your faculty advisor. I suggest you begin preparations immediately. As Lily left the office, the letter clutched in her hand. The hallway had cleared, making her late for advanced economics. She hurried toward the classroom, her mind racing with implications. The showcase would put her directly in the spotlight, something she had carefully avoided at Westbrook. Her strategy of academic excellence, combined with social invisibility, had mostly worked, allowing her to endure the occasional taunting without escalation. She slipped into class with a whispered apology to Professor Harrington, a former Wall Street analyst, whose unorthodox teaching methods made him both respected and slightly feared. Madison and her friends occupied their usual seats in the center of the room, designer bags hanging from custom hooks they'd installed on their desks. Against school policy, but overlooked due to their parents' generous donations. Now that we're all present, Professor Harrington said with pointed emphasis, let's continue our discussion on market disruption through innovation. Who can explain how Tesla fundamentally altered the automotive industry's approach to electric vehicles? Several hands shot up, including Madison's, whose father's investment firm had been an early Tesla backer, a fact she mentioned in nearly every economics discussion. Miss Mitchell, Professor Harrington called instead, though Lily hadn't raised her hand. Your perspective? Lily hesitated, aware of the irritated glances from those whose hands had been ignored. Tesla succeeded not because they invented electric vehicles, but because they changed the narrative around them. They positioned EVs as desirable luxury items first, environmental choices second. It's similar to how premium organic produce created a new market segment that conventional agriculture had to respond to. Professor Harrington nodded with approval. An excellent comparison. Markets transform most effectively when innovation addresses existing consumer desires rather than attempting to create entirely new ones. From the corner of her eye, Lily could see Madison whispering to Aidan, both glancing at her with smirks that promised future retaliation for the perceived slight of being chosen over them. The professor's favor was a mixed blessing, academic recognition that came with social cost. When class ended, Lily gathered her things quickly, hoping to exit before the others. Professor Harrington's voice stopped her at the door. Miss Mitchell, a word about your showcase project. As Lily approached his desk, she could feel Madison lingering by the door, ostensibly organizing her designer planner, but clearly eavesdropping. Congratulations on your selection, Professor Harrington said, his tone genuinely enthusiastic. Your proposal on integrating traditional agricultural wisdom with modern financial models is precisely the kind of innovative thinking Westbrook should be fostering. Thank you, sir. I've taken the liberty of contacting some colleagues at Cornell's Agricultural Economics Department. They're very interested in your research, particularly your case study on your family's farm's transition to regenerative methods. Madison's pen clattered to the floor, her surprise at this information barely disguised as she bent to retrieve. That's very generous, Lily managed, anxiety tightening her chest. Any attention to her family's farm risked questions she'd carefully avoided since arriving at Westbrook. Not at all. Your work deserves recognition, Professor Harrington lowered his voice slightly. Don't let the politics of this place discourage you, Lily. Your perspective is valuable precisely because it's different from the typical Westbrook worldview. As Lily left the classroom, Madison was waiting in the hallway, her expression calculating. So the farmer's daughter caught the professor's eye, she said, examining her manicured nails. How quaint. Is he advising you to present your showcase in overalls and straw hat for authentic farm flavor? Lily moved to walk past her, but Aidan stepped into her path. We're just curious about this family farm that's so revolutionary. Where exactly is this agricultural wonderland? Do you keep the pigs in the front yard or the back? It's a sustainable operation in western Massachusetts, Lily replied evenly, trying to keep the defensive edge from her voice. We grow primarily heirloom vegetables and specialty grains. How pastoral, Madison said with exaggerated sweetness. And here I thought scholarship students usually came from the inner city. Did Westbrook need to fill its country bumpkin quota this year? The familiar hurt bloomed in Lily's chest, but she had long since learned that showing weakness only encouraged worse behavior. Excuse me, I have calculus next. Of course you do, Madison stepped aside with mock courtesy. Can't keep the numbers waiting, though I imagine you're better with counting chickens than calculating derivatives. As Lily walked away, she heard Madison stage whisper to her friends. $5 says her farm is just a vegetable patch behind a trailer. No way she belongs here. If they only knew the truth, Lily thought as she rounded the corner. The Mitchell family's little farm was actually the centerpiece of an agricultural technology empire that operated in stealth mode, with research facilities in 3 states and partnerships with universities across the country. Her father, Thomas Mitchell, had walked away from a lucrative finance career to revolutionize sustainable farming practices, operating under a corporate structure so private that even industry insiders rarely connected the modest Mitchell family with Mitch Tech Agricultural Solutions. The tape on her shoe caught on the marble floor, making an awkward sound that drew glances from passing students. Lily adjusted her stride to minimize the noise. Just 6 more months, she reminded herself. 6 months of hiding in plain sight before graduation would reveal everything, before Madison and everyone else would learn exactly who the charity in case really was, and why the scholarship bore her family name. As she slipped into her calculus class and took her usual seat by the window, Lily allowed herself a small, private smile. Their ignorance was, for now, her greatest protection, and eventually it would make the truth all the more satisfying when it finally came to light. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The Mitchell family farmhouse sat on 40 acres of land in the Berkshires, its weathered clapboard exterior and wraparound porch giving no indication of the cutting-edge technology concealed within its barn and outbuildings. As Lily's father's pickup truck rumbled up the gravel driveway that Friday afternoon, she felt the familiar relief of temporary escape from Westbrook's suffocating atmosphere. Thomas Mitchell waited on the porch, his weathered hands wrapped around a steaming mug. Despite the mild October weather, at 52, he retained the athletic build of his college rowing days, though his once dark hair had silvered at the temples. His faded jeans and flannel shirt reinforced the image of a simple farmer, a carefully cultivated persona that amused him more than he would admit. "There's my scholar," he called as Lily emerged from the truck, driven by their longtime operations manager, Frank, who had picked her up from the train station. "How was the week in the ivory tower?" Lily dropped her backpack on the porch swing and accepted her father's one-armed hug. "I got selected for the senior showcase," she said without preamble. "Professor Harrington nominated my proposal on regenerative agricultural business models." Pride flashed across Thomas's face. "That's my girl. Did you use the research from the Vermont project?" The comparative yield data, yes, but anonymized. I referenced it as a case study from Western Massachusetts. Lily leaned against the porch railing. Professor Harrington wants to connect me with contacts at Cornell. A shadow of concern crossed her father's features. That could complicate things. I know. I'm being careful, Dad. The front door opened, and Lily's mother emerged, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel. Diana Mitchell had met Thomas in their senior year at Harvard Business School, abandoning her planned career at McKinsey to help build his vision of revolutionizing agriculture through technology while maintaining the appearance of a modest family. "Farm! I thought I heard my favorite academic superstar," Diana said, embracing her daughter. Unlike Thomas, Diana made few concessions to their rural cover story in her appearance. Her tailored pants and cashmere sweater would not have looked out of place in a Boston boardroom, and her short, expertly cut hair-framed features that had appeared in Forbes' Women to Watch list before she deliberately stepped out of the public. Senior showcase," Thomas announced proudly. "Our investment is paying off." Diana's smile was warm, but tinged with the same concern her husband had shown. "You're maintaining your cover story?" "Of course, Mum." Lily followed her parents into the house, the familiar scent of her mother's rosemary bread filling the cozy kitchen. "No one suspects anything. They just think I'm the charity case, the farmer's daughter who got lucky." "And the bullying?" Diana asked directly, maternal instinct detecting what Lily didn't volunteer. Lily busied herself getting water from the refrigerator. "Nothing I can't handle." Thomas and Diana exchanged glances, a lifetime of partnership allowing for silent communication. "You know you don't have to continue this experiment," Thomas said gently. "We could transfer you to Grantham Academy. They'd welcome you with open arms, knowing your identity." "No." Lily's response was instant and firm. "I'm not running away. I've worked too hard to establish myself at Westbrook. The showcase could mean scholarship offers from top universities." She paused, setting her glass down with deliberate care. "Besides, I want to see their faces at graduation when they announce." The Mitchell Agricultural Sustainability Scholarship was established by my family. Diana studied her daughter with a mixture of pride and concern. "Just remember why we chose this path in the first place. It wasn't about revenge or some dramatic revelation. It was about me developing my own identity," Lily recited. She'd heard this explanation since the family had made the decision for her to apply to Westbrook under their unusual arrangement, learning to succeed on my own merits without the family name opening doors, or closing them, Thomas added. The agricultural industry is still skeptical of tech innovators. If everyone knew MitchTech's founder was sending his daughter to Westbrook, the old guard farmers would see it as a betrayal, and the tech investors would question your commitment to agricultural revolution, Lily finished. "I get it, Dad. The stealth mode protects the mission." Thomas smiled sadly. "It's more than that, Lily. When I was your age, doors opened for me because of the Mitchell banking connection, even though I wanted nothing to do with finance. Every accomplishment was dismissed as nepotism. I wanted you to have the chance I never did, to know your success is truly yours." Diana placed a fresh loaf of bread on the cutting board. "Enough serious talk. Tell us about this showcase project. What's your specific angle?" As Lily outlined her research over dinner, the conversation shifted to the family business. The latest soil monitoring sensors were showing promising results in Nebraska. Their partnership with Stanford's Agricultural Engineering Department had produced a breakthrough in water conservation technology. The vertical farming prototype in Detroit was exceeding yield projections. For these few precious hours at home, Lily didn't have to pretend to be less than she was. Here she could discuss complex agricultural economics, debate sustainability strategies, and analyze market trends without hiding her knowledge or dampening her passion. "The board wants to take the company public next year," Thomas mentioned, as they cleared dinner dishes. I've been resisting, but the pressure from investors is increasing. Going public would mean revealing everything, Lily said, understanding the implications immediately. No more flying under the radar. Exactly. Thomas ran a hand through his silver-streaked hair. The timing would coincide with your graduation. If we decide to move forward, we'll need to prepare for significant changes. That night, in her childhood bedroom, with its views of experimental crop fields illuminated by moonlight, Lily opened her laptop to find several messages from her Westbrook classmates. Most were routine study group notifications, but one subject line made her stomach tighten. Farmer Girl's Big Secret, from Madison's email address. With reluctant fingers, she clicked it open. Dearest Country Bumpkin, someone spotted your dad's truck dropping you at the train station last weekend. Imagine our surprise when a quick search showed Mitchell Farms doesn't exist anywhere in Massachusetts. So what's the real story? Scholarship charity case. Are you actually from some ghetto and made up the whole farm thing to sound quaint? Or is there another reason you're lying about your background? The Westbrook community values honesty above all. Perhaps we should discuss your situation with Dr. Reynolds on Monday. Kisses. Madison Lily's hands shook slightly as she closed the message. Madison was fishing, not knowing what she might catch. But the threat was clear. The carefully constructed narrative that protected both Lily's educational experience and her family's business strategy was in danger. Her phone buzzed with a text from Zoe Warner, one of the few Westbrook students who had shown consistent kindness. Since Lily's arrival, Madison's telling everyone she's uncovered your big secret. Just wanted to warn you. You okay? Lily responded with a quick, thanks for the heads up. All good. See you Monday. She closed her laptop and moved to the window, looking out at the experimental fields where the Mitchell agricultural revolution had begun 15 years ago. Her father had used his finance background to secure initial funding for what investors believed was a modest research project. That first investment had grown into MitchTech Agricultural Solutions, a privately held company now valued at over $800 million. With technologies deployed across 3 continents, the irony wasn't lost on Lily. Madison and her wealthy friends tormented her for being poor, while their parents' investment portfolios likely included Mitchell Technology Partners, the holding company through which much of MitchTech's financing flowed. Thomas Mitchell's deliberate avoidance of publicity, unusual in the tech sector, meant few people connected the innovative agricultural technology company with the unassuming farmer. In western Massachusetts, Lily's phone buzzed again. This time it was her cousin Ryan, a sophomore at MIT who had always been her closest confidant. Mom mentioned you're in the danger zone at snob school. Need reinforcements? She smiled despite her anxiety. Not yet, but stay on standby. Operation. Farm girl might need an extraction plan. The family joke had always been that they were operating a long con worthy of a spy novel. What had begun as a strategic business decision, keeping the Mitchell name out of the spotlight to avoid industry politics, had evolved into an elaborate identity management system touching every aspect of their lives. As Lily prepared for bed, she considered her options. She could ignore Madison's email, hoping the lack of response would suggest there was no secret to uncover. She could craft a careful lie, creating a fictional family farm with just enough verifiable details to withstand casual scrutiny. Or she could go on the offensive, finding a way to neutralize Madison's threat without revealing the truth. By morning, she had formulated a plan. It was risky and would require perfect execution, but if successful, it would not only protect her family's secret, but also secure her position at Westbrook until graduation. Madison Taylor was about to learn that underestimating the farmer's daughter was a serious miscalculation. Lily slept surprisingly well that night. The familiar sounds of home, the distant hum of advanced irrigation systems, the gentle beep of monitoring equipment in the barn, the occasional ping of her father's secure server, receiving data from field stations across the country, forming a comforting backdrop to her dreams. In less than 24 hours, she would return to Westbrook Academy to face Madison's challenge. This time, however, she wouldn't be playing defense. The skills she had inherited from both parents, her father's strategic thinking and her mother's unflinching determination, were about to be put to the test in ways that would change her Westbrook experience forever. Monday morning arrived with the crisp certainty of autumn fully established on Westbrook's campus. Students hurried across leaf-strewn walkways, designer scarves fluttering in the October breeze as they clutched pumpkin-flavored coffees from the local artisanal cafe. Lily stepped off the regional bus half a block from campus, her weekend strategy firmly in place. Instead of her usual entrance through the side gate to avoid attention, she walked deliberately toward the main courtyard, where Madison and her friends typically gathered before first period. She had dressed with particular care, not inexpensive clothes, but in a perfectly assembled outfit that reflected thoughtful simplicity: dark jeans without a single worn spot, a cream-colored sweater her mother had ordered from a sustainable clothing company, and brown leather boots that were practical yet stylish. Her backpack remained the same, but she'd removed the keychain that had been a frequent target of Madison's ridicule. As expected, Madison's group occupied their usual spot by the central fountain, their designer bags arranged around them like territorial markers. When Madison spotted Lily approaching directly toward them, a deviation from her normal pattern of avoidance, her perfectly sculpted eyebrows rose in surprise. "Well, if it isn't Little Miss Mystery Farm," Madison called out, loud enough for nearby students to hear. "Come to confess your lies?" Lily stopped directly in front of the group, maintaining an expression of calm confidence she didn't entirely feel. "Good morning, Madison. I got your email." "And?" Madison's smile was predatory. Several students had slowed their pace, sensing the potential for drama. "I thought it might be more efficient to address your concerns directly, rather than through email." Lily adjusted her backpack strap with deliberate casualness. "You seem confused about my family's farm." Aidan snickered. "The non-existent one, you mean?" "Mitchell Organics operates under Northwestern Agricultural Partners for liability reasons," Lily stated, delivering the carefully prepared half-truth with convincing simplicity. "It's common practice for small family farms working with university research programs. My dad values privacy, not secrecy." This explanation, crafted with help from her parents and vetted by the family lawyer, contained just enough verifiable truth to withstand casual investigation. Northwestern Agricultural Partners did exist as one of MitchTech's many subsidiary entities, technically encompassing several experimental growing operations, including the Mitchell's personal property. "So you're saying we just didn't search thoroughly enough?" Madison's tone remained skeptical, but Lily detected the first flicker of uncertainty. "I'm saying farming is complicated, Madison. Not everything has a flashy website or Instagram presence." Lily glanced at her watch. "If you have specific questions about sustainable agriculture, I'm happy to answer them sometime. I've got comparative literature in 10 minutes. As Lily turned to leave, projecting a confidence she hoped appeared genuine, Madison called after her, "My father's investment firm specializes in agricultural technology. Perhaps I should ask him to look into Northwestern Agricultural Partners." Lily paused, then turned back with a small smile. "Feel free. Sustainable farming needs more investors who understand its potential." The subtle pivot from defense to educational authority was a technique she'd learned from watching her mother handle challenging board members. Walking away, Lily heard Zoe fall into step beside her. "That was impressive," Zoe murmured. "Madison looked like she was expecting you to crack, not give an agriculture lesson." People usually find what they expect to find, Lily replied, her heart still racing from the confrontation. Madison expected a frightened scholarship student with something to hide. Instead, she got Farmer Girl 2.0, Zoe grinned. Bold move. Think she'll drop it? Not entirely, but she'll be more cautious now. The remainder of the morning passed without incident, though Lily noticed increased whispers as she moved between classes. Madison's investigation had evidently become common knowledge, along with Lily's unflustered response. By lunchtime, the narrative had already begun shifting. The scholarship student had stood her ground against Madison Taylor, a rare occurrence. In Westbrook's carefully stratified social ecosystem, Lily was selecting an apple from the cafeteria's organic fruit display when she felt someone watching her. Turning, she found herself face to face with Jackson Wheeler, Westbrook's student body president and member of one of Boston's oldest families. Unlike Madison's crowd, Jackson had always maintained a polite neutrality toward Lily, neither participating in the ridicule nor intervening to stop it. Mitchell, he acknowledged with a brief nod, heard you had an interesting morning. News travels fast, Lily replied, adding the apple to her tray. Everything travels fast at Westbrook, except actual, progressive thinking. His wry observation surprised her. I wanted to let you know that the Showcase Committee is meeting this afternoon to assign mentors. I've recommended you work with my father. This was unexpected. Albert Wheeler was not only a Westbrook alum and major donor, but also the CEO of Wheeler Sustainable Investments, one of the largest firms focused exclusively on environmentally responsible companies. That's generous, Lily managed, immediately calculating the potential complications. But Professor Harrington is already— Harrington's brilliant on theory, Jackson interrupted. But my father can connect you with actual agricultural investment networks, especially if you're serious about regenerative models. He studied her expression. Unless there's a reason you'd prefer to avoid that level of industry exposure? The question held no obvious trap, yet Lily sensed its significance. Jackson Wheeler was nobody's fool, despite his carefully cultivated image of privileged nonchalance. No reason, she replied carefully. I'd be honored to work with Mr. Wheeler. Good. I've shared your proposal with him. He was particularly interested in your comparative yield analysis. Jackson's penetrating gaze lingered a moment longer than social convention dictated. See you in econ. As he walked away, Lily considered this new development. Albert Wheeler moved in the same financial circles as many of MitchTech's investors. The connection posed risks, but also opportunities. If she managed the relationship carefully, Mr. Wheeler's mentorship could provide valuable insights without compromising her family's privacy. The afternoon brought another unexpected encounter. As Lily entered the library for her study period, she noticed a small group of juniors at a back table, huddled over laptops and agricultural journals. One looked up and waved her over. Emma Fitzgerald, a quiet girl who rarely interacted with seniors. Lily, right? We're working on a project for environmental science and wondered if you might answer some questions about regenerative agriculture. Emma's manner was earnest, without a trace of Madison's mockery. Professor Winters said you were the person to ask. For the next 30 minutes, Lily found herself explaining soil rehabilitation techniques and carbon sequestration to students who seemed genuinely interested in agricultural sustainability. The irony wasn't lost on her. After months of hiding her knowledge to avoid standing out, she was now being sought out precisely for that expertise. So your family's farm transitioned from conventional to regenerative methods? Asked Ben, another junior. What was the biggest challenge? Lily carefully navigated between honesty and discretion. Water management initially. Conventional farming often relies on irrigation systems that don't account for natural watershed patterns. Redesigning with nature rather than against it required significant investment, But the long-term benefits outweigh the costs? Emma pressed. Absolutely. Healthier soil means more resilient crops, lower input costs, and premium market positioning. Lily realized she was echoing her father's investor presentations and quickly redirected. At least that's been our experience on a small scale. As the conversation wound down, Ben remained behind while the others packed up. "Thanks for the help," he said, but his expression suggested he had more to say. "I should mention, my dad sits on the board of Mitchell Technology Partners." Lily's careful composure nearly slipped. Mitchell Technology Partners was indeed the investment vehicle through which MitchTech channeled much of its financing. "Oh," she managed, her voice remarkably steady. "Yeah, he speaks highly of the founder, though apparently he's famously private. Some tech genius who left finance to revolutionize agriculture." Ben seemed oblivious to Lily's internal panic. "I just thought it was a cool coincidence, you having the same last name and being into sustainable agriculture too." "Quite a coincidence," Lily agreed, gathering her books with deliberate calm. "Mitchell's a common name." "True. Anyway, thanks again for the help." As Ben departed, Lily sank into a chair, adrenaline coursing through her system. The carefully constructed walls between her Westbrook identity and her family's business were developing hairline fractures. Ben had made no connection beyond noting the shared surname, but the incident underscored the fragility of her situation. Her phone vibrated with a text from her mother. "Board meeting ended early. Big news. Call when you can." Before Lily could respond, another message appeared, this one from an unknown number. "You're not who you pretend to be. Neither am I. We should talk." Jay, the cryptic message sent a chill through her. Jay could only be Jackson Wheeler, whose earlier conversation now took on new significance. How much did he know? And more importantly, what did he want? Lily gathered her belongings and headed for the empty music practice rooms, where privacy was guaranteed by soundproofed walls. This day had already delivered multiple unexpected developments, each altering the delicate balance she had maintained for months. Whatever her mother's big news entailed, whatever Jackson Wheeler thought he knew, one thing was becoming increasingly clear. Maintaining her cover story until graduation was going to be far more challenging than she had anticipated. As she hurried across campus, Lily caught sight of Madison watching her from the steps of the science building, her expression calculating. The morning's confrontation had not ended the threat, it had merely transformed it. Madison Taylor was not someone who accepted defeat gracefully, and Lily had no doubt that her apparent victory was merely the opening move in a more complex game. The practice room's soundproofed walls muffled the ambient sounds of Westbrook's afternoon activities as Lily dialed her mother's number. Diana Mitchell answered on the second ring, her voice carrying the focused energy that always followed important board meetings. "Lily, good. Do you have privacy?" "Yes. What's happened?" The board voted on the IPO timeline. Diana's tone was carefully neutral, but Lily detected the underlying tension. "They want to announce in January with the actual offering in April." Lily gripped her phone tighter. "That's before graduation." "Yes. Your father negotiated as much delay as possible, but the investors were adamant. The agricultural tech sector is hot right now, and our water conservation patents alone are being valued at over $200 million. The implications raced through Lily's mind. If MitchTech went public in April, the company's founder would be revealed in all SEC filings and press materials. Thomas Mitchell's deliberate anonymity would end, and with it, the careful separation between the Mitchell family and their business empire. "How's Dad handling it?" Diana's sigh carried through the connection. "You know your father, outwardly stoic, inwardly recalculating every variable. He's in the greenhouse with the experimental drought-resistant tomatoes. His version of stress, relief, Despite her anxiety, Lily smiled at the familiar image. Her father had always retreated to hands-on agricultural work when business pressures mounted. "What does this mean for me?" Lily finally asked the question weighing heaviest on her mind. "That's what we need to discuss this weekend. The PR team is developing a strategy for the public offering that necessarily includes family positioning. The scholarship at Westbrook bearing our name complicates matters." Before Lily could respond, a knock at the practice room door startled her. Through the small window, she saw Jackson Wheeler's face, his expression unreadable. "Mom, I need to call you back. Something's come up. Everything okay?" "I'm not sure yet. I'll call tonight." After ending the call, Lily took a steadying breath before opening the door. Jackson entered without waiting for an invitation, closing the door behind him. "Thanks for not ignoring my text," he said, leaning against the upright piano that dominated the small room. "Though I half expected you to." "What makes you think I'm not who I pretend to be?" Lily countered, deciding that directness was her best strategy. "That's quite an accusation." Jackson studied her with the same penetrating gaze he'd displayed earlier. "Let's call it an educated observation. My father manages investments for several Westbrook families, including the Taylors." The mention of Madison's family sharpened Lily's attention. "Yesterday," Jackson continued, "Madison's father called mine, asking about Northwestern Agricultural Partners, specifically whether it had any connection to Mitchell Technology Partners." Lily maintained a neutral expression despite the alarm bells ringing internally. "And why would that concern me?" "Because," Jackson said quietly, "when my father mentioned the inquiry to me, I remembered something from last spring's charity gala, a photograph in the Boston Business Journal of Thomas Mitchell standing in the background of a renewable energy panel. He was identified only as an agricultural sustainability advocate, but the resemblance to you is unmistakable." The silence that followed felt deafening. Lily's mind raced through possible responses, calculating the risks of denial versus partial admission. "What exactly do you want, Jackson?" He looked almost offended. "Contrary to popular belief, not everyone at Westbrook is motivated purely by self-interest. I mentioned you to my father for the showcase because your work is genuinely innovative." "And the cryptic text? The ambush in a practice room?" "A courtesy," he replied, straightening from his casual posture against the piano. "Madison is on a mission to expose whatever she thinks you're hiding. I thought you deserved to know that her father is actively investigating your family connections." Lily considered this information. "Why would you warn me?" Something flickered across Jackson's features. Discomfort, perhaps, or hesitation. "My family has its own carefully managed public image. The Wheeler philanthropy is considerably more calculated than most people realize." He paused. "Let's just say I understand the value of controlling your own narrative." This hint at his own, carefully constructed identity intrigued Lily. The Wheeler family's reputation for environmental philanthropy was well established, but Jackson was suggesting something more complex beneath that public persona. "What's your stake in this?" she pressed. "Two things," he answered with surprising candor. "First, my father is genuinely interested in your showcase project. Second," he hesitated, "Madison Taylor's vendetta against scholarship students didn't start with you. Last year's target transferred schools mid-semester after a particularly vicious campaign." Understanding dawned. "You didn't stop it then, and that bothers you." Jackson's expression confirmed her assessment. "Westbrook has a way of turning bystanding into complicity. I'm trying to correct that pattern." Lily weighed her options. Jackson had shown his cards, or at least some of them. Complete honesty was impossible, but perhaps a strategic alliance might help navigate the increasingly complicated situation. "My family values privacy," she finally said. "The farm is real, as is our connection to agricultural sustainability. The rest is complicated." Complicated enough that Madison's digging could cause problems? Potentially. Jackson nodded, accepting the limited information. My father's mentorship for your showcase will help insulate you somewhat. The Taylors won't openly oppose something the Wheelers have endorsed. Why would your father agree to mentor me if he suspects who my family is? A hint of a smile appeared on Jackson's face. Because Thomas Mitchell's approach to agricultural technology aligns perfectly with Wheeler. Sustainable investment's public philosophy. My father admires innovators, especially those who've succeeded outside traditional channels. The bell signaling the end of the period interrupted their conversation. Students would soon fill the hallways, making private discussion impossible. We should continue this later, Jackson said, moving toward the door. The showcase committee meets tomorrow. I'll secure my father's mentorship officially. Thank you, Lily said, still uncertain whether Jackson was an ally or simply a different kind of threat. He paused, hand on the doorknob. One more thing. The winter formal is next month. Going with me would further complicate Madison's narrative about you. The unexpected suggestion caught Lily off guard. Are you asking me to the formal as a strategic move? Partially, he admitted, but also because you're one of the few genuinely interesting people at this school. Think about it. After Jackson left, Lily remained in the practice room, processing the multiple developments of the day. The IPO announcement, Jackson's unexpected alliance offer, Madison's continued investigation. Each element altered the equation she'd been carefully balancing since arriving at Westbrook. Her phone buzzed with a text from Zoe. Madison's holding. Caught in the student lounge, telling everyone her father's investigating your fake farm family. You okay? Before Lily could respond, another text arrived, this one from her cousin Ryan. Mom told me about the IPO timeline. Need extraction plan activated yet? The convergence of messages perfectly captured her current predicament. The carefully separated worlds of Westbrook and Mitchell family business were colliding faster than anyone had anticipated. Lily gathered her belongings and headed toward her last class of the day, Advanced Economics. As she entered the classroom, she immediately sensed the shift in atmosphere. Students who had previously ignored her existence now watched with poorly disguised curiosity. Madison and her inner circle huddled in their usual seats, occasionally glancing in Lily's direction with smug anticipation. Professor Harrington began the class with his customary directness. Today we're discussing market disruption through technological innovation in traditional industries. Miss Mitchell, given your family background in agricultural innovation, perhaps you could start us off with observations about technology adoption in farming communities? The question, innocent on its surface, landed in the charged atmosphere like a match in a gas-filled room. Madison's expression turned predatory, clearly expecting Lily to stumble under the increased scrutiny. Instead, Lily felt a sudden clarity. For months, she had carefully limited her responses, hiding the full extent of her knowledge to avoid raising questions. The strategy had served its purpose, but the game was changing. With the IPO announcement approaching and Madison actively investigating her background, continued pretense was becoming more dangerous than calculated openness. Actually, Professor, Lily said, her voice steady, technological disruption in agriculture follows a unique adoption curve compared to other industries. She launched into an analysis that drew not just from textbook theory, but from her direct experience with Mitch Tech's market strategy, being careful to frame her insights as observations rather than insider knowledge. As she spoke, she noted varying reactions around the room. Professor Harrington's obvious approval, Jackson's knowing half-smile, Madison's growing frustration as Lily demonstrated expertise that contradicted the simple farm girl narrative. The most successful agricultural innovations, Lily concluded, address fundamental challenges while respecting traditional knowledge. Farmers adopt technology that enhances their existing expertise rather than attempting to replace generations of accumulated wisdom. Excellent analysis, Professor Harrington nodded. This perspective bridges the theoretical gap between disruptive innovation and sustainable implementation. When class ended, Lily felt Madison's glare following her out the door. The confrontation was far from over, but the dynamics had shifted. By demonstrating deeper knowledge than previously revealed, Lily had begun adapting her strategy, not abandoning her cover, but allowing it to evolve in response to changing circumstances. Outside the classroom, she found Jackson waiting. Bold. "Move in there," he commented, falling into step beside her. "Decided to stop playing dumb?" "I never played dumb," Lily corrected. "I just didn't volunteer information." "Well, whatever you want to call it," Madison looked ready to explode. "Which means you're doing something right." He handed her a small envelope. "My father's card. He'd like to discuss your showcase project tomorrow after school. His office is downtown." As Jackson walked away, Lily considered the rapidly evolving situation. Meeting with Albert Wheeler represented both opportunity and risk. The connection could provide valuable support for her showcase project and help counter Madison's attacks. But it also brought her dangerously close to the investment world where her father's carefully guarded identity might be compromised. That evening, back in her dormitory room, Lily faced the most difficult call of the day. Her parents needed to know about these developments, particularly Jackson Wheeler's partial recognition and Albert Wheeler's interest in her project. The Wheeler connection could accelerate or completely derail their carefully orchestrated plan. For Lily's Westbrook experience, as she dialed her home number, Lily realized that for the first time since arriving at Westbrook, she was no longer simply enduring her situation. She was actively shaping it. Whether this evolution would lead to triumph or disaster remained to be seen, but the passive scholarship student was giving way to something more closely resembling the daughter Thomas and Diana Mitchell had raised, strategic, resourceful, and determined to control her own narrative. The Wheeler Investment Group occupied the top 3 floors of a sleek glass tower in downtown Boston, its lobby displaying the perfect balance of wealth and environmental consciousness. Living walls of tropical plants, furniture crafted from reclaimed wood, and subtle lighting that minimized energy consumption while maximizing aesthetic impact. Lily stood at the reception desk, dressed in her most professional outfit, a navy blazer over a simple white blouse and dark slacks that her mother had insisted on purchasing for important meetings. The receptionist, after verifying her appointment, directed her to the executive elevator with a level of deference that contrasted sharply with Lily's daily treatment at Westbrook. "Miss Mitchell, for Mr. Wheeler," the receptionist announced through a discreet headset, "sending her up now." The elevator ascended silently to the 42nd floor, opening directly into a tastefully appointed waiting area where a middle-aged executive assistant greeted her. "Miss Mitchell, welcome. Mr. Wheeler is expecting you. May I offer you something to drink?" "Water would be fine, thank you." As the assistant disappeared to fulfill the request, Lily took a moment to study her surroundings. The wall behind the assistant's desk displayed Wheeler Sustainable Investments' impressive portfolio: renewable energy projects, conservation initiatives, sustainable agriculture ventures, each represented by striking photography rather than corporate logos. One image in particular caught her attention, an aerial photograph of experimental agricultural fields using distinctive irrigation patterns that Lily instantly recognized as Michtech's proprietary design, though the location appeared to be somewhere in the Southwest rather than Massachusetts. "Impressive technology, isn't it?" Lily turned to find Albert Wheeler standing in his office doorway. In his early 60s, he carried himself with the confident ease of someone long accustomed to influence. His resemblance to Jackson was striking, the same analytical gaze, though tempered by decades of additional experience. The water conservation efficiency is remarkable, Lily responded, professional instincts taking over despite her nervousness. The radial distribution system allows for 40% less water usage while maintaining optimal soil moisture levels. Wheeler's eyebrows rose slightly. That's exactly right. Most visitors just comment on how pretty the patterns look from above. He gestured toward his office. Please, come in. The corner office offered panoramic views of Boston Harbor, the space dominated by a conference table rather than a traditional desk. Spread across the table were printouts of Lily's showcase proposal, alongside what appeared to be research materials. On regenerative agriculture, I've reviewed your project outline, Wheeler began, taking a seat and indicating she should do the same. It shows uncommon sophistication for a student your age. The comparative yield analysis particularly impressed me. Thank you, sir. Albert, please, we'll be working together over the next few months. He tapped a section of her proposal. Your understanding of how regenerative methods can be financially viable for mid-sized operations is quite nuanced. Most advocates focus on environmental benefits without adequately addressing economic sustainability. Lily relaxed slightly as the conversation centered on agricultural economics, familiar territory where she could speak with authority while still being careful not to reveal the full extent of her knowledge. Environmental benefits mean little if farmers can't afford to implement the methods, she noted. My family's experience suggests that the transition period is the critical challenge. Once established, regenerative systems often outperform conventional approaches in both resilience and profitability. Wheeler nodded thoughtfully. That transition period is precisely where most sustainable agriculture initiatives fail. Farmers can't afford 2 or 3 years of reduced yields, regardless of long-term benefits. He leaned forward slightly. Your proposal mentioned innovative financing models to address this gap. I'd be interested in hearing more. For the next half hour, Lily outlined financing structures that could support farmers through the transition to regenerative methods, carefully adapted versions of models her parents had developed for Michtech's partner farms. Wheeler asked incisive questions that revealed genuine expertise, occasionally making notes on a sleek tablet. You've clearly thought beyond the theoretical, he observed. These models show practical understanding of agricultural operations that's unusual in academic projects. Lily maintained her composure despite the implied question. Growing up on a working farm provides perspective that can't be gained from textbooks alone. Wheeler's expression remained neutral, but something in his eyes suggested he was evaluating more than just her showcase project. Indeed, hands-on experience is invaluable. He set down his tablet. How much practical implementation have you done with these financing models? The question veered dangerously close to revealing her family's actual operations. Lily chose her words with precision. Our farm has experimented with components of these models in collaboration with neighboring properties. The scale has been limited, but the principles appear sound. And you've documented these experiments? Yes, though protecting participating farmers' privacy has been a priority. Wheeler nodded, seemingly satisfied with this answer. Privacy is important in experimental phases, speaking of which. He paused, his tone shifting subtly. My son mentioned that you value discretion regarding your family background. The directness of the statement surprised Lily. Jackson seems to have shared quite a bit about me. Jackson has good instincts about people. He believes your showcase project has exceptional potential, and I agree. Wheeler leaned back in his chair. I've also noticed certain similarities between your proposed models and approaches being developed by Michtech Agricultural Solutions. The direct mention of her family's company sent a jolt through Lily's system, though she maintained her outward composure. I've studied their public research papers, Their water conservation approach is particularly innovative. Indeed. Wheeler's penetrating gaze reminded her strongly of Jackson's. Their founder has been remarkably successful at maintaining personal anonymity while building a company now valued at nearly $1 billion. Quite an achievement in the age of social media. Lily recognized the conversation had entered dangerous territory. Perhaps he values the work above personal recognition. Perhaps, Wheeler agreed. Or perhaps he understands that certain innovations flourish best away from the spotlight. He smiled slightly. I've never met Thomas Mitchell. Though we move in overlapping circles, his privacy has been respected within the industry, largely because his work speaks for itself. The implicit message was clear. Albert Wheeler had made the connection between Lily and MitchTech, but was indicating he would respect the family's privacy. The question was why. My mentorship of your showcase project will be based solely on its merits, Wheeler continued, answering her unspoken question. Your background, whatever it may be, is your own business. I simply wanted to establish that understanding directly. Relief mingled with lingering caution in Lily's response. I appreciate your discretion. Good. Wheeler gathered the papers on the table. Now, let's discuss how to strengthen the practical implementation section of your proposal. The theory is solid, but the showcase judges will want to see potential real-world applications. The remainder of the meeting focused on refining Lily's project, with Wheeler offering valuable insights from his experience in agricultural investment. As the session concluded, he walked her to the elevator. You'll need to present preliminary results at the Winter Showcase preview in December, he reminded her. I suggest incorporating case studies from successful transitions to regenerative methods. My assistant will send you access to our research database. Thank you, Albert. This has been incredibly helpful. As the elevator doors were closing, Wheeler added a final comment. Give my regards to your father. His work on drought-resistant crop varieties is particularly impressive. The doors closed before Lily could respond, leaving her to process the implications during the descent. Albert Wheeler had not only identified her connection to MitchTech, but had sent a clear message of professional respect. Whether this represented an alliance, a business strategy, or something more complicated remained unclear. When she exited the building, Lily found Jackson waiting beside a sleek electric sports car, leaning casually against the driver's door. How was the meeting with the infamous Albert Wheeler? He asked, opening the passenger door for her. Informative, Lily replied cautiously. Your father is very knowledgeable about agricultural finance, and very direct about what he knows, Jackson observed, sliding into the driver's seat. Did he mention MitchTech? Lily turned to study his expression. You knew he would. I suspected. Dad does his homework. Jackson navigated skillfully through downtown traffic. Don't worry, he respects business privacy. The Wheelers have plenty of our own carefully managed information. So, I've gathered. Lily settled back in the luxurious seat. Where are we going? Back to Westbrook. Unless you'd prefer coffee first, we should probably discuss the Madison situation. The mention of Madison brought Lily back to her immediate concerns. What's the latest? She's convinced her father to look deeper into Northwestern Agricultural Partners. He's apparently found some connection to Mitchell Technology Partners, but nothing conclusive. Jackson maneuvered around a delivery truck. Madison scheduled a meeting with Dr. Reynolds tomorrow to discuss scholarship integrity concerns. She's going to the headmistress? Lily's alarm was evident despite her efforts to remain calm. Apparently, Madison thinks she's found enough inconsistencies to question your scholarship eligibility. Jackson glanced at her. Dr. Reynolds is fair, but she takes the school's reputation. Seriously, if Madison presents compelling evidence of misrepresentation, the threat hung in the air. Westbrook's scholarship integrity was a fundamental aspect of the school's prestigious reputation. Even unproven allegations could create serious complications. "This is getting out of hand," Lily murmured, more to herself than to Jackson. "There's another option," he said, pulling into a small cafe parking lot rather than continuing toward Westbrook. "You could take control of the narrative, reveal selected parts of your background on your own terms before Madison forces the issue. That would defeat the entire purpose of my being at Westbrook. My parents wanted me to succeed or fail on my own merits, not because of our family name or business." Jackson cut the engine. Noble intention, but sometimes circumstances require adaptation. He turned to face her directly. "Madison won't stop. Her vendetta against you has become personal, especially after you stood up to her. She's used to controlling the social hierarchy at Westbrook. And what's your interest in all this? Why are you getting involved in Madison's vendetta?" Something flickered across Jackson's features, a momentary vulnerability beneath his confident exterior. "Let's just say I've spent my entire life navigating carefully constructed public images. The Wheeler philanthropy isn't entirely what it appears to be, just as I suspect your simple farm isn't the complete story." His candor surprised her. "What do you mean about the Wheeler philanthropy? That's a conversation for another time." Jackson checked his watch. "Coffee, then back to campus. We can strategize about Dr. Reynolds." As they entered the cafe, Lily's phone vibrated with a text from her mother. "Board finalizing IPO announcement details. PR team wants family photos. Next week. How should we handle your Westbrook situation?" Looking up from the message, Lily found Jackson watching her with undisguised curiosity. The parallel challenges of Madison's investigation and her family's impending public offering were converging faster than anyone had anticipated. The carefully constructed separation between Lily Mitchell, scholarship student, and the Mitchell family of Mitchtech was collapsing from multiple directions. "Bad news?" Jackson asked, noting her expression. "Complicated news," Lily corrected. "It seems I may need to adapt sooner than expected." Dr. Eleanor Reynolds' office embodied Westbrook Academy's blend of tradition and authority. Oak paneling, leather-bound books, and portraits of distinguished alumni surveying the room with painted gravitas. The morning light filtered through leaded windows, casting a pattern across the antique desk where the headmistress now studied a folder with Madison Taylor seated smugly in one of the visitor chairs. Lily, summoned from her advanced calculus class, entered with her heart pounding beneath her carefully composed exterior. The scene before her confirmed Jackson's warning. Madison had indeed brought her investigation directly to the administration. "Miss Mitchell, thank you for joining us," Dr. Reynolds said, her tone revealing nothing. "Please have a seat." Lily took the remaining chair, maintaining deliberate eye contact with Dr. Reynolds rather than acknowledging Madison's triumphant expression. "Miss Taylor has raised some concerns regarding information provided in your scholarship application." Dr. Reynolds began, removing her glasses and placing them precisely on the desk. "Specifically, certain details about your family background and residence," Madison interjected before Lily could respond. "My father's investigation revealed that Northwestern Agricultural Partners is a corporate entity with no public-facing farm operations. It appears to be a research subsidiary of a larger agricultural technology company." Her tone carried the righteous indignation of someone exposing a great fraud. "The Mitchell family farm, as described in Lily's application and interviews, doesn't seem to exist in the form she's represented." Dr. Reynolds raised a hand to silence Madison. "I'll conduct this discussion, Miss Taylor." Turning to Lily, she continued with measured professionalism. "These are serious allegations. Westbrook's scholarship program operates on the fundamental principle of transparency. Misrepresentation in the application process would be a violation of our honor code." The moment demanded a decision. Lily had spent the previous evening in lengthy discussions with her parents, weighing options and potential consequences. The family's privacy had served important business purposes, but circumstances were forcing their hand earlier than planned. "Dr. Reynolds," Lily began, her voice steadier than she felt, "may I clarify the situation fully? Some aspects involve my family's business privacy that would be best discussed without unnecessary audiences." Madison bristled visibly. "If she's admitting to lying on her application, I have a right to hear it. My father is a major donor whose concerns prompted this investigation." Dr. Reynolds studied both students before responding. "Miss Taylor, thank you for bringing this matter to my attention. However, as this now involves potential private student information, I'll need to speak with Miss Mitchell alone." "But that will be all, Miss Taylor." The headmistress's tone left no room for argument. "Please return to your class. I'll address any appropriate follow-up with your father directly." Madison gathered her designer bag with barely contained fury, shooting Lily a venomous glance before departing. When the door closed, Dr. Reynolds turned her full attention to Lily. "Now, Miss Mitchell, I suggest you speak candidly. Madison's father has indeed raised questions that merit serious consideration." Lily took a deep breath. "My family's farm exists exactly as described in my application. What I didn't disclose is that it's also the original research facility for Tech Agricultural Solutions, a company my father founded 15 years ago." Dr. Reynolds' expression registered subtle surprise. "Thomas Mitchell of Tech is your father?" "Yes. He values privacy and has deliberately maintained separation between our family life and the company's public profile. Northwestern Agricultural Partners is indeed the legal entity that encompasses our family farm and several research operations." The headmistress leaned back in her chair, processing this information. "While I understand desires for privacy, Westbrook's scholarship program requires complete transparency regarding financial circumstances. If your family owns a technology company valued at—" She consulted the folder. "Nearly $1 billion according to recent industry valuations. That would indeed constitute a significant omission. The Mitchell Agricultural Sustainability Scholarship wasn't established under false pretenses," Lily clarified. "My father endowed it anonymously 5 years ago to support students interested in sustainable agriculture. When I applied to Westbrook, we realized it would create a unique opportunity. Opportunity for what exactly? The directness of the question demanded equal honesty. For me to experience education based solely on my own merits, without the assumptions and advantages that come with the Mitchell name in business circles. My father grew up with wealth that opened doors regardless of his actual abilities. He wanted something different for me." Dr. Reynolds removed a document from the folder. "Your scholarship application was exemplary, Miss Mitchell. Your academic records, essays, and recommendations would have secured your admission regardless of financial need." She studied Lily carefully. "However, accepting scholarship funds when your family clearly doesn't require financial assistance raises ethical concerns. The scholarship covers my tuition, but my family has donated 10 times that amount anonymously to Westbrook's General Scholarship Fund each year I've attended," Lily explained. "We've more than offset any financial support I've received." This information seemed to surprise the headmistress. "The Henderson Anonymous Fund, that's your family?" Lily nodded. "My parents believe strongly in educational access. They didn't want their experiment with my education to deprive other students of opportunities." Dr. Reynolds tapped her fingers thoughtfully on the desk. "This is certainly an unusual situation. While I understand the philosophical motivation, I'm concerned about the precedent. What would prevent other wealthy families from concealing their circumstances to test their children's mettle, so to speak?" "Nothing," Lily acknowledged. except that most wealthy families want their children to benefit from their connections. And status not hide from them. She leaned forward slightly. My parents made a controversial choice, but not with intent to deceive Westbrook. They wanted me to experience education without the shadow of family expectations or advantages. And how has that experiment worked out for you? Dr. Reynolds asked, her tone softening slightly. Lily considered the question with genuine reflection. It's been challenging. I've endured mockery and isolation that my name might have prevented. But I've also built genuine relationships and achievements based solely on who I am, not what my family represents. She met the headmistress's gaze directly. I've learned things about myself that privilege might have hidden forever. Dr. Reynolds was silent for a moment, her expression thoughtful. Your situation presents a unique administrative challenge, Miss Mitchell. While the financial aspects can be addressed through the donations you mentioned, there's still the matter of incomplete disclosure. I understand. My family is prepared to make the situation right in whatever way you deem appropriate. That may be complicated by Miss Taylor's involvement, Dr. Reynolds noted. She and her father clearly expect some form of disciplinary action. The situation is becoming more complex regardless, Lily said. My family's company is preparing for a public offering in April. Their identity will become public knowledge before graduation. This news clearly caught the headmistress's attention. I see. That certainly changes the timeline for any decisions. Regarding your status, she closed the folder decisively. Here's what I propose. You will write a full disclosure statement for your file, explaining the circumstances and reasons for the partial information in your original application. Your family's donations to the Henderson Fund will be formally documented as offsetting your scholarship, though we'll maintain the public perception of your scholarship status to preserve your educational experience. And Madison, I will inform Mr. Taylor that we've addressed the concerns and verified your eligibility for attendance without sharing private details. Dr. Reynolds' expression became stern. However, I must emphasize that while I understand your family's motivations, I don't entirely condone the method. Transparency is a fundamental value at Westbrook, even when it complicates our personal journeys. I understand, Dr. Reynolds. Thank you for your consideration. As Lily prepared to leave, the headmistress added, One moment, Miss Mitchell. There's the matter of your showcase project. Given your family's connection to agricultural technology, some might question the authenticity of your work. The research and analysis are entirely my own, Lily assured her. My father has never reviewed my project or provided direct input. Nevertheless, full disclosure to the Showcase Committee would be appropriate at this stage, Dr. Reynolds advised. Albert Wheeler has agreed to mentor you, correct? Yes, we met yesterday. Does he know about your family connection? Lily hesitated only briefly. He suggested he's aware of it, though we didn't discuss it explicitly. Interesting, Dr. Reynolds remarked. The Wheelers have their own approach to public perception, as I'm sure you've noticed. She replaced her glasses, signaling the meeting's conclusion. I'll expect your written disclosure by Monday. And Miss Mitchell, I suggest you prepare for significant changes in your social dynamics once this information becomes more widely known. Outside, the office, Lily exhaled slowly, processing the outcome. The meeting had gone better than she'd feared, but had accelerated the timeline for revealing her family's identity. Dr. Reynolds had been surprisingly understanding, though her disapproval of the deliberate omission had been clear. As Lily turned toward her next class, she found Zoe waiting anxiously in the hallway. What happened? Zoe asked, falling into step beside her. Madison's been telling everyone you're about to be expelled for lying about being poor. Not exactly, Lily replied, still formulating how much to share. Dr. Reynolds reviewed the situation and determined I can continue at Westbrook. So, Madison's claims about your family were wrong. The question demanded a level of honesty Lily hadn't planned on providing so soon. But the accelerating timeline and Dr. Reynolds' requirement for disclosure to the showcase committee meant the truth would emerge regardless. Not entirely, Lily admitted, pulling Zoe into an empty classroom. My family does own a farm, but there's more to our situation than I've shared. My father founded an agricultural technology company that operates somewhat under the radar. Zoe's eyes widened. Seriously? So you're actually rich? It's complicated, Lily hedged. The company has been privately held and deliberately low profile. My parents wanted me to attend Westbrook without the advantages or assumptions that come with family wealth or connections. So all this time, while Madison and her friends have been treating you like a charity case, I've been experiencing exactly what my parents intended. Education based on who I am, not what my family owns. Lily searched her friend's face. Are you angry that I didn't tell you? Zoe considered the question. Not angry, maybe a little hurt, but also fascinated. This is like something from a movie. She grinned suddenly. And Madison's face when she finds out will be absolutely priceless. That's not why my family arranged things this way, Lily clarified, though she couldn't suppress a small smile at the image. Maybe not, but it's definitely a bonus. Zoe's expression turned more serious. So what happens now? Does everyone find out? Eventually, yes, the company is preparing for a public offering in the spring. But for now, Dr. Reynolds is allowing me to maintain my current status while we document some financial arrangements behind the scenes. The warning bell for next period rang, ending their private conversation. As they headed toward their respective classes, Zoe asked one last question. Does Jackson know? He's been unusually attentive lately. He figured some of it out, Lily acknowledged. His father is mentoring my showcase project, and the Wheelers move in financial circles that overlap with my family's business. Interesting, Zoe murmured. Very interesting. As Lily entered her comparative literature classroom, she felt a strange mixture of relief and apprehension. The immediate crisis with Dr. Reynolds had been managed, but the foundations of her Westbrook experience were shifting. The carefully constructed walls between her dual identities were crumbling faster than anyone had anticipated. Madison sat in her usual seat, her expression darkening as Lily entered. Whatever Dr. Reynolds had told her clearly hadn't satisfied her thirst for vindication. The battle was far from over. It had merely entered a new phase, with higher stakes and more complex dynamics. For the first time since arriving at Westbrook, Lily found herself wondering not how to maintain her cover, but how to strategically reveal her true identity in a way that served her own purposes rather than Madison's. Vendetta. The game was changing, and with it, the rules of engagement that had defined her Westbrook experience from the beginning. November brought crisp temperatures and swirling leaves to Westbrook's campus, along with a subtle but unmistakable shift in the school's social atmosphere. Though Dr. Reynolds had maintained appropriate confidentiality regarding Lily's meeting, rumors spread like frost across autumn grass. Whispers about Madison's failed attempt to have the scholarship student removed, speculation about what Dr. Reynolds had discovered, theories about why the headmistress had seemingly sided with Lily over the daughter of a major donor. The Winter Showcase preview was 3 weeks away, and Lily found herself spending every Wednesday afternoon at Wheeler Investment Group, refining her project under Albert Wheeler's surprisingly hands-on mentorship. Today, they were reviewing the financial projections for her regenerative agriculture transition model. The initial capital requirements remain the primary barrier, Albert noted, studying the spreadsheet projected on his office wall. Even with your innovative financing structure, small to mid-sized farms would struggle with the 2-year productivity dip during transition. Lily had been considering this problem for weeks. What if we incorporated carbon sequestration credits? The regenerative methods increase soil carbon significantly, which has quantifiable climate benefits. Possible, but the carbon market remains volatile. Hard to base financial planning on such an unstable value proposition. Albert tapped his stylus thoughtfully against his palm. Have you considered equipment sharing cooperatives to reduce capital expenses? This suggestion aligned with approaches Mitch Tech had implemented with partner farms in the Midwest. Actually, yes. Specialized equipment for no-till cultivation and precision application represents a major expense that could be distributed across multiple operations. Albert nodded approvingly. Draft that section with specific cost-sharing calculations. The judges will want to see concrete numbers, not just theoretical frameworks. As Lily made notes, Albert's assistant appeared at the door. Mr. Wheeler, your 4 o'clock has arrived, and Mrs. Wheeler called to confirm dinner arrangements with the Mitchell family this weekend. Lily looked up in surprise. This was the first. She'd heard of any dinner plans involving both families. Albert acknowledged the message with a nod. Thank you, Denise. Turning to Lily, he explained, Your parents and I have some matters to discuss regarding agricultural technology investments. Jackson suggested combining business with pleasure, a dinner at our home rather than a formal meeting. I see, Lily replied carefully. My parents didn't mention it. The invitation was just extended this morning. Given recent developments, certain conversations seemed timely. Albert's expression revealed nothing beyond professional courtesy. Your showcase project is progressing exceptionally well. We'll continue next week with the financial modeling section. Taking the clear dismissal, Lily gathered her materials and headed toward the elevator. In the lobby, she found not Jackson, waiting as usual, but his younger sister Charlotte, a sophomore at Westbrook, whom Lily knew only by sight. Jackson got held up at debate team, Charlotte explained, twirling car keys around her finger. He sent me as your chauffeur back to campus. She studied Lily with undisguised curiosity. So you're the mysterious scholarship student who's suddenly worthy of Dad's personal mentorship and family dinner invitations. The direct approach reminded Lily of Albert's straightforward style. I'm not sure about mysterious, but yes to the rest. Charlotte led the way to a sleek hybrid SUV in the parking garage. Jackson's being annoyingly cryptic about you, and Dad never brings students into his inner circle without good reason. Perhaps he genuinely values my project, Lily suggested mildly, buckling into the passenger seat. Dad values lots of projects. He doesn't personally mentor the creators, unless there's strategic benefit. Charlotte navigated skillfully through downtown traffic. And he definitely doesn't invite their families to our home unless there's significant business potential. Lily chose her response carefully. My project involves agricultural sustainability finance, an area where your father has considerable expertise and interest, and your father has expertise in agricultural technology that happens to align perfectly with Wheeler Sustainable Investments' portfolio expansion goals. Charlotte delivered this assessment without looking away from the road. I attend the family business dinners, you know. I hear things. The younger Wheeler sibling was proving to be as perceptive as her brother, but with fewer social filters. You seem to have formed some specific impressions about my family, Lily observed. Let's say I've developed theories based on available evidence. Jackson and Dad aren't the only ones who can connect dots. Charlotte took a corner with confident precision. Madison Taylor's vendetta against you has become legendary at Westbrook, especially since Dr. Reynolds shut down her complaint. Most people think it's just Madison being Madison, but the timing coincides interestingly with Dad's sudden interest in your showcase project. You've been paying attention, Lily acknowledged. I find social dynamics fascinating, especially when they involve usually invisible scholarship students suddenly becoming visible in very specific contexts. Charlotte glanced sideways. For what it's worth, I think what Madison did was garbage, classic privileged insecurity, attacking someone she perceives as vulnerable to reinforce her own status. The blunt assessment aligned with Lily's own understanding of Madison's behavior. That's an insightful analysis. Psychology minor, Charlotte explained with a shrug. Also, I've watched Madison pull the same stunts for years. She's nothing if not consistent in her insecurity-driven aggression. As they approached Westbrook's campus, Charlotte lowered her voice slightly. Just so you know, things are shifting. Madison's been telling people her father discovered something big about your family, but that Dr. Reynolds is covering it up to protect the school's reputation. Most people think she's just saving face after her complaint failed, but a few are curious enough to start their own digging. Thanks for the warning, Lily said as they pulled up to the dormitory entrance. Not a warning, just information. Charlotte's direct gaze was disconcertingly similar to her father's. Jackson likes you, which means you're probably more interesting than most Westbrook clones. I look forward to observing how this all unfolds. With that ambiguous conclusion, Charlotte bid her goodbye, leaving Lily to contemplate the increasingly complex dynamics surrounding her dual identity. The Wheeler family's interest in her situation clearly extended beyond Albert's professional mentorship of her showcase project, suggesting business considerations that aligned with her family's impending public offering. Inside her dormitory, Lily found an email from her mother with the subject line, "Wheeler Dinner, Saturday." The message confirmed that Thomas and Diana Mitchell had accepted an invitation to the Wheeler estate for what was described as a discussion of mutual business interests and potential collaborations. Diana had added a personal note. Your father and Albert Wheeler have been circling each other professionally for years. The IPO timeline has accelerated certain conversations. We'll discuss implications when we see you Saturday. As Lily considered this development, a knock at her door revealed Zoe holding 2 cups of coffee. Thought you might need this after your fancy mentorship session downtown, she said, entering without waiting for invitation, a habit that had developed since Lily's partial revelation about her family. Thanks. Lily accepted the coffee gratefully. How'd you know I was back? Saw Charlotte Wheeler dropping you off. That's new. Usually it's Jackson playing chauffeur. Zoe settled onto Lily's desk chair. Speaking of which, rumors are flying about you and Jackson, especially since he asked you to the winter formal. I haven't actually accepted yet, Lily reminded her. The invitation, extended as a strategic move during their earlier conversation, had become complicated by the increasing business connections between their families. Well, you might want to decide soon. Madison's telling everyone it's a pity date, that Jackson's father forced him to take you to improve Wheeler Investments' public image as champions of diversity and inclusion. Lily nearly choked on her coffee. That's ridiculous. Of course, it is, but Madison's desperate to maintain her narrative about you, especially since her complaint to Dr. Reynolds backfired. Zoe studied her friend curiously. What exactly happened in that meeting anyway? Madison stormed out looking like she'd swallowed a wasp, and you emerged seemingly unscathed. Though Lily had shared some aspects of her family situation with Zoe, she had kept the details of the administrative resolution private. Dr. Reynolds reviewed the facts and determined Madison's concerns were unfounded, she said simply. Uh-huh. Zoe's skeptical expression made it clear she sensed there was more to the story. And this has nothing to do with the fact that you're suddenly spending every Wednesday with one of Boston's most influential investors, or that Jackson Wheeler, who has never shown interest in scholarship students before, is now personally escorting you around town. The mounting inconsistencies in Lily's cover story were becoming increasingly difficult to manage, even with friends, who had no hostile intent. "It's complicated, Zoe." Clearly, Zoe's tone remained light, but her eyes reflected genuine concern. "Look, you don't have to tell me everything. But if Madison is escalating her campaign against you, it might help to have allies who understand what they're defending." The perspective was valid. As Madison's tactics evolved from direct administrative challenge to rumor-based social undermining, Lily's isolation made her more vulnerable. Yet expanding the circle of those who knew her true circumstances created its own risks. "Some aspects of my family situation are in transition," Lily acknowledged carefully. "There are business considerations that affect how much I can share." "Right now," Zoe nodded, accepting the limited explanation. "Fair enough. Just know I'm in your corner, mysterious background and all." She changed subjects with deliberate lightness. "So winter formal, Jackson Wheeler, are you going to accept?" The question had been weighing on Lily's mind. "I'm not sure." His initial invitation seemed more strategic than personal. "Maybe initially," Zoe agreed. "But have you seen how he looks? At you in economics, when he thinks no one's watching? That's not strategy, that's interest." This observation caught Lily off guard. She had been so focused on managing her complex situation that she hadn't considered genuine personal interest as a factor in Jackson's behavior. "Either way," Zoe continued, "going with Jackson would completely upend Madison's narrative about you. She's built her social position partly on her presumed exclusive access to Jackson's circle. You arriving at the formal on his arm would be—" She grinned mischievously. "Well, let's just say Madison's reaction would be worth photographing for posterity." Despite the serious undercurrents of her situation, Lily found herself smiling at the image. "That's not a reason to accept a date." "No, but it's a delightful potential side effect," Zoe countered. "Besides, when was the last time you did something simply because you wanted to, rather than because it served some larger strategy about your identity?" The question hit with unexpected force. Since arriving at Westbrook, nearly every decision Lily made had been filtered through the lens of maintaining her cover or advancing her educational goals. The idea of accepting Jackson's invitation simply because she might enjoy his company seemed almost foreign, a normal teenage impulse that her complicated circumstances had overshadowed. As Zoe departed for evening study group, Lily found herself contemplating how dramatically her Westbrook experience had evolved from those first difficult months. The isolated scholarship student, targeted for ridicule by Madison's crowd, had become the center of multiple converging dynamics. Academic recognition through her showcase project, business connections through the Wheeler family, and now potential social reconfiguration through Jackson's invitation. The carefully constructed walls between her dual identities were not merely crumbling. They were being systematically dismantled by forces beyond her control. The question was no longer whether her true identity would be revealed before graduation, but how she would navigate the revelation to shape her own narrative rather than becoming a character in Madison's vengeful story or a pawn in larger business maneuvers between the Mitchell and Wheeler families. For the first time, Lily began to envision her remaining months at Westbrook not as an endurance test, but as an opportunity to reclaim agency, to integrate the strength and knowledge she had always possessed with the resilience and independence she had developed during her time as the scholarship student. The path forward remained uncertain, but the possibility of emerging whole rather than fragmented offered unexpected hope. The June morning dawned perfect for Westbrook's graduation ceremony. Clear blue skies, mild temperatures, and just enough breeze to make the rows of white chairs on the great lawn comfortable for the assembled guests. The campus had never looked more immaculate, with centuries-old oaks providing dappled shade and carefully tended flower beds, creating bursts of color against the historic stone buildings. In the senior preparation room, Lily adjusted her honor. Cords, gold for academic excellence, green for sustainable innovation, and blue for community impact. The last 6 months had transformed her Westbrook experience in ways she could never have predicted when she first arrived as the scholarship student from a farm. "Need help with your cap?" Zoe appeared beside her, already perfectly assembled. In her graduation regalia, "Thanks." Lily handed over the cap with its precisely positioned tassel. "Hard to believe we're actually here, especially considering everything that's happened since January." Zoe secured the cap with practiced movements. "I still can't believe Madison's face when the Boston Business Journal ran that feature on Michtech's IPO preparation with your family photo prominently displayed. Epic doesn't begin to describe it." The memory brought a smile to Lily's face. The Mitchell family's identity had indeed become public knowledge in January, 3 months before graduation, when Michtech announced its intention to go public. The feature article that followed had included a family photograph taken on their farm, with explicit mention of Lily's attendance at Westbrook Academy. The best part was how she tried to claim she'd known all along, Lily recalled. That her investigation had uncovered the truth, but Dr. Reynolds had prevented her from revealing it. And then Jackson publicly corrected her version during debate club, Zoe added with satisfaction, clarifying that her complaint had been dismissed because she had incomplete information, not because she'd made some grand discovery. The memory of that particular day remained vivid. Madison's humiliation had been complete, her social dominance fractured, as the revelation about Lily's family transformed the dynamics of Westbrook's hierarchy overnight. Students who had previously ignored or ridiculed the scholarship student suddenly discovered compelling reasons to strike up conversations about agricultural technology, business opportunities and, most transparently, invitations to summer gatherings. Speaking of Jackson, Zoe nodded toward the door where Jackson Wheeler stood in his graduation robes, scanning the room until he spotted Lily. The months since the winter formal had transformed their strategically motivated connection into something neither had anticipated, a genuine relationship built on shared experiences and mutual understanding of the complexities of family legacies. 5 minutes until we line up," Jackson announced, making his way to Lily's side. "My parents are seated with yours in the front row. Charlotte's been assigned photography duty and is taking her responsibility very seriously." Lily smiled at the mention of Charlotte Wheeler, whose initially suspicious assessment of Lily had evolved into a surprisingly solid friendship. "Did your father bring the contract documents?" "Of course. Nothing says graduation celebration like signing partnership agreements immediately after the ceremony." Jackson's dry humor reflected his acceptance of the business realities that had become intertwined with their personal relationship. The partnership between Michtech and Wheeler Sustainable Investments had been finalized in the weeks following. Michtech's successful IPO in April, the collaboration centered around implementing Lily's showcase project, her regenerative agriculture financing model, which had won not only Westbrook's top innovation award, but also recognition from 3 leading agricultural universities. "Graduates, please begin lining up alphabetically," called Ms. Winters, the senior class advisor. "Remember your processional practice, dignity and decorum at all times." As the seniors organized themselves into their prescribed order, Lily found herself standing near Madison Taylor, whose cold glare had lost much of its former power. The months following the revelation of Lily's true family background had been difficult for Madison, whose social position had eroded as her judgment and behavior came under unprecedented scrutiny. "Congratulations on the Showcase Award," Madison said stiffly, the words clearly costing her considerable effort. My father was impressed with your financial model. The unexpected acknowledgement represented the closest thing to reconciliation Madison was capable of offering. Thank you, Lily replied simply, neither seeking nor expecting more substantive interaction. Their exchange was interrupted by Ms. Winters directing them to begin the processional. As pomp and circumstance filled the air, the graduating class of Westbrook Academy began their ceremonial walk across the great lawn toward the stage where Dr. Reynolds and the Board of Trustees waited. From her position in line, Lily could see her parents seated in the front row, her father in a perfectly tailored suit that did nothing to diminish his farmer's bearing, her mother elegant and poised as always. Beside them sat the Wheelers, the two families now linked by both business partnership and their children's relationship. The months since the public revelation of Mitchtech's founder had been a whirlwind of adjustments. Thomas Mitchell had emerged from his deliberate anonymity to take his place as a recognized innovator in agricultural technology, while Diana had stepped into a more visible role as the company's chief strategy officer. The IPO had been tremendously successful, valuing Mitchtech at $1.2 billion on its first day of trading. For Lily, the transition had been equally transformative. The dual identity she had maintained so carefully had merged into an integrated whole, neither the isolated scholarship student nor simply the wealthy tech founder's daughter, but a young woman who had proven her capabilities independently while benefiting from her family's legacy of innovation and purpose. As the graduates took their seats and Dr. Reynolds approached the podium to begin her address, Lily reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. What had begun as her parents' well-intentioned experiment in character development had evolved into something far more valuable, a genuine test of resilience, adaptability, and self-definition that had prepared her for the complex world beyond. Westbrook's sheltered campus. Dr. Reynolds' commencement address touched on themes of integrity, purpose, and the responsibility that came with privilege, words that resonated differently with Lily now than they would have before her Westbrook experience. When the headmistress concluded and began calling graduates forward to receive their diplomas, the culmination of years of academic work merged with the emotional weight of transitions completed and new beginnings awaiting. Lily Elizabeth Mitchell, Dr. Reynolds announced when Lily's turn came, summa cum laude, recipient of the Innovation in Sustainability Award and the Mitchell Agricultural Sustainability Scholarship. As Lily crossed the stage to accept her diploma, she heard the distinctive sound of her father's enthusiastic applause, a farmer's unrestrained celebration, cutting through the more measured responses of Westbrook's traditionally reserved audience. The contrast brought a smile to her face as she shook Dr. Reynolds' hand. Well done, Miss Mitchell, the headmistress said quietly, with genuine warmth beneath her formal demeanor. On all fronts. Following the ceremony, as families and graduates mingled on the lawn, Lily found herself at the center of multiple congratulatory conversations. Faculty members who had supported her showcase project, classmates who had become friends despite the complicated dynamics of her revelation, even a few parents who had business interests in agricultural sustainability, all offered their good wishes and expressed admiration for her achievements. There she is, Thomas Mitchell's voice carried as he approached with Diana beside him. Our graduate who insisted on doing things the hard way. Lily accepted her father's bear hug, now unrestrained, by concerns about maintaining her cover story. I learned from the best, Dad. You've never taken the easy path either. True enough, Thomas's pride was evident as he stepped back to study his daughter in her graduation regalia. But I think you've outpaced the teacher. Your showcase model is already changing how we approach partner farm financing at Mitchtech, which is precisely why we're so interested in implementing it on a broader scale," Albert Wheeler added, joining them with his wife and children. "The partnership documents are ready whenever you are, Thomas." "Business after celebration," Diana Mitchell interjected firmly. "We've reserved the lakeside terrace at the Grantham for lunch. The contracts can wait until dessert at the earliest." As the two families moved toward the parking area, Lily fell into step beside Jackson. "So this is it," she said quietly. "Westbrook, chapter complete. Not exactly how either of us expected it to end," Jackson observed. "When you first arrived, I don't think anyone could have predicted." He gestured vaguely, encompassing their relationship, their family's business partnership, and the dramatic social reconfiguration that had occurred. "Least of all Madison," Lily added with a small smile. "I actually feel a little sorry for her." "Don't," Jackson advised. "She created her own situation through years of calculated cruelty. The fact that it finally backfired doesn't make her a victim." As if summoned by their conversation, Madison appeared with her parents, intercepting the Mitchell-Wheeler group, with determined smiles. "Congratulations, Lily," Mrs. Taylor said with practiced warmth. "Scott and I were just telling Thomas and Diana how impressed we are with Mitch Tech's innovative approach. The social maneuvering was transparent. The Taylors attempting to position themselves favorably with families whose business and social capital now significantly outweighed their own." Madison stood slightly behind her mother, her expression carefully neutral despite the obvious discomfort of the situation. "Thank you," Lily replied with genuine grace, her months of social navigation at Westbrook having prepared her well for such interactions. "I appreciate your kind words." As the Taylors moved on to other graduating families, Jackson squeezed Lily's and "perfectly handled, neither vindictive nor obsequious." "I've had excellent practice in navigating complicated social situations," Lily reminded him. "Starting as the scholarship charity case and ending as the tech heiress provided quite the educational experience in human behavior." Their conversation was interrupted by Charlotte, who had been documenting the graduation with professional quality photography. "Family photo time," she announced. "Mitchell-Wheeler collaboration, front and center by the oak tree." As the families arranged themselves for the photograph, Lily found herself positioned between her parents, with Jackson beside her, and the elder Wheelers completing the grouping. The composition perfectly captured the journey's resolution. Families united by shared values and vision, personal connections strengthened through understanding, and new possibilities emerging from the integration of different perspectives. "And expertise. Everyone say agricultural revolution," Charlotte directed with characteristic directness, prompting laughter from both families as she captured the moment. Later, as they walked toward the parking area, Lily took a final glance. Back at Westbrook's campus, the historic buildings, manicured grounds, and ceremonial stage now being dismantled by staff. What had begun as a challenging experiment in character development had become something far more significant, a genuine journey of self-discovery that had prepared her for whatever came next. The peasant girl who had arrived at Westbrook bearing the invisible weight of a secret identity had graduated as herself, fully integrated, tested by adversity, and ready to apply both her family legacy and her hard-won personal resilience to creating positive change in the world beyond Westbrook's sheltering walls. The revelation that had seemed so important, the moment when her family's empire would be recognized, had ultimately mattered far less than the person she had become through the journey itself. As she joined her family and the Wheelers in their waiting cars, Lily Mitchell stepped confidently toward whatever adventures awaited, carrying with her the most valuable lesson of her Westbrook experience. True identity isn't revealed in a single dramatic moment, but built through countless choices, challenges, and connections that shape who we become when no one is watching and when everyone is. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.